Jerry. It's one of my favorite hymns there. Turn your eyes upon Jesus. How many people know that? Sing that chorus with me. Ready? Turn your eyes upon Jesus. Look full in his wonderful face, and the things of earth will grow strangely dim in the light of his glory and grace. Turn your eyes upon Jesus. Look full. Remember this morning? We're talking about just halfway doing it? No. And we wonder why. Sorry. We wonder why the things of this earth don't go strangely dim to us. They do to him. They do to him and her, but they don't to me. Maybe it's because we're not looking full in his wonderful face. Okay, just a reminder about this morning's sermon. I'm really proud of this young man right here, one of our own here. I like to say that he got saved and baptized here, but that's not actually true. He got saved right before he came to us, and it was through his through Colin's half brother. Collins brought him here, and then that started him on this journey that he's on, and I'm so proud of him. And thank you for coming out and to hear him speak tonight. And I don't think you'll regret it, Brother Caleb. Come on up.
Hello, everyone. I just want to say I'm really appreciative of this church and pastor that opened doors for me to serve God in, and really anyone. And that I really do believe that Collins led me to this church, and it was amazing how it worked, because it was only 1 week that he came into my life, and then he was off to do God's will in Kentucky as he left. But for those who don't know me, I've been coming here for around a year and a half. I've been here a year and a half. It feels longer. And my name is Caleb, by the way, and I've been saved for 2 years and a half. And that was on the night of June 16th, 2020, around 9:30 p.m. But before I go into detail with that, I'm going to start from my childhood, talk about how my life was before I came to Christ, how I got saved, some of the big things that God has done after I got saved, and what he brought me out of, and finally, how God called me into ministry. So I want to begin by I was raised Catholic, and I was baptized as a baby, and I know that's not scriptural, and that's why I got rebaptized, and I didn't make that decision for myself, and I wasn't saved because of that. But we went to church every Sunday, me and my dad, and we stopped going to church around 6th grade, and then we just only went to church on holidays from there. And I personally felt church was really boring. I'm just being honest, I thought it was boring, but I went with my dad, and so my life was really just, I played a lot of Xbox, I played a lot of video games, I was irresponsible, and that's just basically how my life was all the way up until high school. And things really escalated the second year of high school. It was that summer where I got into the wrong crowd, and in one summer I was introduced to nicotine, alcohol, and marijuana. And at the end of that summer, I was a regular user of all those three things. And I want to explain how it happened, because as a kid, I said, I'm never going to do this, I'm never going to do that. But as I slowly became comfortable what I surrounded myself with, even if I said I was never going to do that. And so it just shows that, that's how influence works, and it's like really slow. And that's why that's another reason why we can't trust our own hearts. What happened, it looked like this. I would say, at first, I would say, hey, could I hit your vape or whatever? And then that would turn into, one more time or two more times, but I'm never gonna do this. And then when I started drinking, then I would justify drinking with a greater sin, but I would never do this. And so what I kept resetting the bar. But the truth is, no matter what, sin is still sin, It only took one sin for this whole world to, just be a fallen world. And I'm happy that we don't live forever in this world, so that we have something to look forward to. But and so that's just how how it all started. And then, not to mention, in high school, I would dress very flashy. And really what I was doing was I was trying to get worship from the world to make me feel better, and that created a pride thing in and of itself. And it was deeper than just, I just want to be confident. No, I was very flashy. I saved up money and I bought things that I shouldn't have bought. And what that really did was is dividing. That's the opposite of loving. Seeing people as yourself. And another thing in high school, it started out in 8th grade. I started making music, and it was ungodly music. So when I got into the second year of high school, I got into all these things, and meanwhile I'm making ungodly music, and I'm bringing people down this dark path. And I'm also flashy. I'm just dressing to point all the fingers at me. And that kind of escalated. I was partied, and I did everything to excite the flesh, and it would only escalate from there outside of high school. And I also want to mention that I always believed that God existed to this point. Matter of fact, I said, I'll just turn to God when I'm 30 so I can party and have fun. These are my exact words. I said, I'll turn to God when I'm 30 so I can party and have fun. So I believe God existed, but I wasn't saved. And I was basically pushing him off. I was trying to have the best of both worlds, but there's no such thing as the best of both worlds, There's only one world where you're free from sin and that bondage that just weighs on your life. Anyway, so to recap, I get into the wrong crowd. I'm making ungodly music, and outside this lifestyle of constantly partying, being irresponsible, and just kind of dragging myself along, this escalates outside of high school. And I started to take music really seriously, and I got into a group in Richmond, a music group. And they almost served as, they acted like a gang, but they weren't. They had firearms, and they also introduced me to even harder drugs, such as cocaine and ecstasy, which I thank God that I didn't do anything that altered my mind permanently. And the extent that I would do was take ecstasy 4 times. So yeah, as I'm in this party crowd, and also I'm taking music very seriously, for the sake of what God did to me, I'm going to say it wasn't just 1,000 views here and there. I'm talking 13,000, 30,000 views, music videos. So I really invested all my life in that. I want to be an artist. I want to be an artist. And I want to mention something very important. Also at this time, where it was the peak in my life of exciting the flesh, I also felt the least amount of security in my life. No peace. I didn't feel any peace when I left the party and I got sober and I was home alone, or I rested my head down at night. I felt no peace. There was an uncertainty in my life that the things in my future won't play out the way I want them to. And what I was feeling that weight of sin, that loss feeling. That's the separation from God. And I will say, I believe, yes, God has a purpose for medicine, but there are so many kids, and it drives me crazy. There's so many young kids my age that are living that lifestyle, and they feel that way that I did back then, and they go to a doctor and they're being diagnosed with depression, but you can't fix what sin does to a person with a pill. Only Jesus Christ can save us from that, and I'm so happy, and I'm very thankful that he did that, and he came to me. And so at this point where everything is escalating, I'm going to get to the point to where how I got saved. Now, all through that journey that I've explained from high school, all outside of high school, the 2 years outside of high school, I actually did a little reaching out sometimes. There's some examples where one time in high school I reached out to someone about faith, but I really did it, deep down it was more of like to justify myself before God, even though I knew I wasn't saved. It was like, oh God, you saw me try, you know. But it wasn't enough. I didn't really mean it. I wasn't pure about it. A year before I got saved, I told my grandma, oh, can I have a easy-to-read Bible? And I got it, and I read it. I read the 6 pages, and when I got to the story of Noah, I stopped, and I closed it. It was boring. I felt nothing. And I actually wrote on my wall that I still have in my room, saved on this day. But now that I'm actually saved, I crossed it out because it was a false conversion. There's no change. There's nothing in my life. And another time, it was about a month or 2 before I got saved, I remember this one instance where I was intoxicated. I fell down a flight of stairs outside, and I was hurt, and I crawled into the grass, and I cried out to God. And for some whatever reason, I don't know why, but I thought I was gonna die. And for some reason, I was like crying out to God. And for this reason, when I explained to you how God called me and how God got my attention, I believe it was because I was searching a little bit, and because of that, He was giving me more and more light, and I fed off of that, and to the point to where God eventually gave me to the point to where I was at a crossroads, which I'll get to. And the way that God got my attention, I don't want to glorify the way He got my attention because it's even strange to me, but I'll say it. About, say, 3 months before I got saved, all of a sudden I just started to see the same number appear. It was 9/11. It could have been 9/11 p.m., 9/11 a.m. It could be on my phone or a computer or on a TV or whatever. And this started to, it was frequent enough that I saw it, that I noticed it. And this would become more and more frequent until the last week before I got saved. I saw the number every single day that week. And on the last day, which was the day I got saved, I saw it 3 times that day. Now I'm going to get to that day. I woke up at 9:11 a.m. And mind you, at this time, the way I'm living my life, my lifestyle, it's actually unusual of me to wake up that early. I would wake up around like 11 or 12. And I look at my phone, I don't really think anything of it. When I saw the number, like, oh, it's that thing again. But for some reason, I would completely forget about it. It was like my memory was erased, and then I would just go on my day. And then later that day, I hung out with the music group in Richmond, and that would be the last time I would take ecstasy. And then I hung out with them for a little bit. Then I went to work. And when I got home, mind you, I'm sober right now. When I got home, I stopped the car and I checked my phone, and it was the same number. Now it was strange to me, and I stopped. But again, it was not enough for me to be moved by it. So I went into my room and I stayed there and I relaxed. I sat on my bed. I relaxed. I was on my phone, and for whatever reason, I believe 100% God gave me this thought. All of a sudden, I need to get something out of the car. Oh, I forgot something. So I go to the car, and when I open the car door, the dash clock, it shows 9:11 p.m. again. And the reason why this is possible is because the clock on my car is 23 minutes behind real time. And so technically I was in my room relaxing for 23 minutes. But only when I saw this the 3rd time is when God had everything clicked in my head. When I saw it, my heart dropped through my body, and I had a thought. It was I need to turn the other way. It was like screaming, I need to turn the other way. The more I go down this dark path, the more I see this. And mind you, I still believe God existed, so I'm tying this to God. I believe this was God. And so I'm already have a repentant heart. And so I run to my room to look further into this, and I just search up on my phone. I keep seeing this number, and something pops up, and I click on it. And again, I don't want to glorify that because I'll say something about it later. But I read an angel or my angel. It said, there's going to be a big change that will come into my life, and it was a sign from my angels. But as I'm reading that, I increasingly started thinking about God, and this is at the time where I got saved. All of a sudden, I'm just accepting this. I'm accepting God at this point. that he turned to me and got my attention. I'm accepting him, but it wasn't like the way I accepted him like halfway, or I didn't even accept him at all in the past. And all of a sudden, as I'm reading this on my phone, but I'm thinking about God, I feel something come upon me so powerful. It was a love, and I felt like my body was like heating up. And it was so powerful that I burst into tears. But it was because of tears of joy. And I was so happy. And it was like I was so overwhelmed with emotion, and I was just accepting God. And at this point, even though I'm covered in mud, but my heart is completely fixed to God. I'm all in 100%. I'm all in. I'm all on board of what you want me to do, because I've seen it for myself that you are more real than anything that I've gotten myself into. And it didn't work out, and there's no security or lasting happiness of my past life. And so after I got saved, even the next day, I can only describe as if God was opening my eyes to spiritual things when I still was not aware of what God said in the Bible. And so I just looked at things, I looked through life at a new lens. In the following weeks, all I felt was joy. When I was hanging out with my friends, I didn't drink, and they were like, why are you so happy? And I was just, I told them, but here's one thing that happened. I texted a group chat with all my friends because I just found the greatest thing I found the greatest thing ever. And in my mind, I found the greatest thing ever, and I want to show my friends this so they can see what I see. And I didn't think a second that, I'm gonna hurt someone's feelings. No. So I tell them in the group chat, God is real. You have to, he's real. Seek him, accept him. And that was the first kind of time that I learned that not a lot of people are gonna accept this message. But nonetheless, I was quick in witnessing to almost like just everyone that I could around me in my life. And I was starting to all of a sudden, after I got saved, I felt guilty doing the same things that I was just doing a couple weeks prior. And I wish I would have stopped everything exactly on the day I got saved, but I stopped cussing. I stopped drinking and smoking, but in other areas of my life, a lot of other areas, God had to deal with me a lot, and I did fight a lot, and I was crawling, and so there's a lot of I felt a lot of guilt and a lot of shame, but I encountered something real in that was a foundation in my life, and there was no other place to go back to. So I repented immediately after I fell into sin after sin, and I was covered in mud. But thankfully, God has sanctified me, and I'm so happy because all it does is bring trouble to the flesh and other things like that. And now that I've got to how I got saved, I want to explain just a few stories of what God did after I got saved. And one story was I was, again, my music. Now, when I got saved, I still had a big following, and I still had music videos. And what happened was I was wrestling with God, and I put out my last song after I got saved, because I couldn't accept that all of my hard work in my music career was going to be over. But I had this growing feeling, and it convicted me. It was like Paul pricking Paul or Saul, and that feeling was I'm bringing people down the wrong path, and God showed me that spiritually, but He knew that I didn't have the strength to. So what He did was He gave me a dream that would terrify me, but in a good way, so that I would see that this is more serious than what I'm doing. And I don't believe this dream has any significance within it, but I do know the purpose of the dream. I'm going to quickly go over it. It was, I was by myself, and I saw a dark cloud just cover the whole earth, and then it skipped to me being at another place, and I was at my the restaurant that I work at, and there was a flood coming, and my car was stuck in mud, and I decided I needed to go get something out of the car, and then lastly, it switched with me being on a road by myself. And for some reason, there's a power line, there's a crow. And I threw a rock at the crow, and it twitched, and then I woke up. Now, I'd never looked into it, but I do know the purpose. And the purpose was God was trying to show me how real and how serious the spiritual things are, and how important my soul is compared to what I'm doing. And in that moment, I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I was on the verge of tearing. I was so terrified, and I was like, no, this is too real. I can't. So I took all my music down, and I took all my music down, and I completely wiped that out, and I'm glad I did that, and because I certainly believed that the rapture was imminent, that it was like, I thought it was going to be in a week or a month, and I was so scared, because in the dream I was like, even though I'm saved, I for some reason thought I was going to be left behind. I was so terrified, and so that's what I did, and I'm glad. And even, another thing, that the pride of having a lot of people look up to you and follow you, that creates a lot of pride as well. And that was an issue to let go, but I'm happy, and I'm really the complete opposite if you get to know me. I don't like showing off a lot, and I'm like the complete opposite, and I'm really happy that God has done that in my life. Another thing I want to explain is how God freed me from idolatry. And so one thing is I wasn't really disciplined as much as I should have been as a kid, so I lacked discipline and self-control, but I'm really happy that over all these lessons and things, that God is the greatest, perfect Father, and He knows exactly what I need. And so if I just follow Him, that He will correct me in the perfect way. But one thing that I have was I occasionally put entertainment above my relationship with God, and I did this with Xbox. Now, I was addicted to Xbox. When I got saved, I stopped playing Xbox. After, I think it was 8 months later, I picked Xbox up again, and I started playing it, and I was so addicted. And it was becoming a problem because I was beginning to have a split heart. And so I was like praying, but I was thinking about the Xbox, and it became a problem. So I called out to God, God, please help me, please help me, because deep down I do want to go all out. I want to live for you, and what you did for me is so great, and I really don't deserve all this, and even the position I'm in. And this is how he answered. The day after I prayed to help me, the day after I prayed for God to help me, I was at work, and I was doing a delivery, and I just looked up on my phone, how to stop idolatry. And it came up on my phone, a 3-minute video, and it talked about Ezekiel 14, God trying to recapture the hearts and minds of his people, because they turned to idols. And as he said that, the video stopped, and it buffered, and it stopped. And at the same time, as I'm driving doing the delivery, my heart I'm like shocked, because I know that I'm in the book of Ezekiel in my Bible. So I go to the Bible app on my phone. I shouldn't have done this while driving, but I did it. And I go to the Bible app on my phone, and as I'm looking at the chapter I'm on, I was in silence after I saw that I was in Ezekiel 14, but I haven't started it yet. And what are the odds? Because there are 1,189 chapters in the Bible, and what are the odds of me being on that exact chapter right after listening to that video, on top of it having exactly what I need to hear from God? And so what I did was I held the chapter off for when I got off of work, because I wanted to be serious, and I wanted to, because God had some specific, he had a lesson for me to learn. And I was so convicted that even before I read the chapter, I took my Xbox, I took the wires, I yanked it out, I got in my car, and I threw it in the forest. And my dad was not happy about it, but I'm not gonna, look, I don't regret anything, because there's a little part of me that was still hanging on to that. And as Pastor said in the past, you have to strike the iron while it's hot. And if I would have let a week go by trying to sell it, who knows that I would have plugged it up and got addicted again, So you have to take action when God gives you an open door. And I did that. I'm so thankful I did that. And I want to give you another story about tithing. I didn't know about tithing. Occasionally me and Pastor meet, and and he's helped me a lot over this spiritual journey. And one day in his office, he teaches me about tithing, giving 10% to God, giving 10% to God. And the next day, he tells me about tithing. The next day, I'm getting groceries after work. And I have money on my card, and I'm going in the self-checkout aisle. Meanwhile, the machine kind of messes up, and it's not my card, it's the machine. But there's a person that he never said anything. He walks behind me, and he has his card. He said, I'm going to pay for it. And then he has his card ready. And I said, no, it's okay. I have money on my card. It's okay. But he insisted. And as the lady fixes the machine, he swipes the card, and then he leaves. He doesn't stay around to say anything. And so this was the day after I learned about tithing. Now, at the time, my check was $300. My tithe was $30. But my groceries, I bought $35 worth of groceries. And when God talks about tithing, he says, I challenge you. You cannot outgive me, And what God clearly did was he gave more than my tithe back to me. He gave that to me. And he really showed me that I will give more to you than what you give to me. And regardless, giving to the purpose of God, to building the kingdom, is worth it. Because we're all going to be there one day. It's going to be perfect. So I just thought that was an amazing thing. And lastly, I'll just say how I got called into ministry. So when Pastor tells his story how he got saved, it was like he got saved. He went straight off to college after was it a few months? 9 months, and it was just zoom, And I was like, why am I not getting something, And I want to say, no matter what position we are that God calls us, we're all equally as important. We're all on an equally as important mission that God calls us upon. And because God needs people that are in the workplace to witness and to be a light for people that don't usually go to church. Anyways, so I prayed to God over these 2 years of sanctifying, and of course we're still fighting a battle. It's every day. But I come to God and I'm like, you're using me, and I'm very excited, and I love praying, for God to just line someone in my life for me to give a word, and it just happens. I'm like, that's no coincidence. But I'm like, can you reveal to me, what do you want me to do with my job, And that was something that I was kind of lost in, because remember, I was planning on being an artist, but now I was just working at a restaurant. And come to find out, he did not answer my prayer for a specific reason, because I wasn't ready to hear that prayer yet. And I believe it was last fall, he gave me the call. And the reason why he gave it to me there was because he wanted me to continue to work at the job that I'm working at for the 2 years, so I would be more disciplined and have self-control, because I was all over the place. And I'm still working on myself now. It's still, to an extent, we are our own parents to an extent. So I was still working on myself. But when God saw that I was ready, he did answer. And back then, I would reach out. I would go to a college kind of thinking, does God want me to go to college? But I didn't feel any push. But now, all of a sudden, the fall semester of college, as it started, I didn't know it was starting in fall semester. I don't do research in school. I just do my work, I'm not really big into school. But anyways, but if God wants me to go to school, I'll be big into it. But so what happened was, all of a sudden, customers are coming in, they're talking about, are you going to go to college? And I'm like, yeah, and I started thinking about it. And there was no doubt in me that there's a green light. I just feel it by faith. There's a green light. I'm going to go to college. That I don't feel like something's holding me back. And I'm only going to go to college to become a pastor. That's what I had in mind. And customers were just reassuring and just talking about college. And I also had the push and feel in my heart. And the cherry on top was, when I went to this college, it was a community college, a secular community college, and I was going there just to get some classes out of the way to save money, to do a transfer. But the advisor that would sign up my classes, and I would tell him I want to be this, and he's going to assign my classes, so I align with that path. He was a Christian, and he was actually a missionary that went to Mexico for 13 years. And he's talking to me as a Christian to another Christian at a secular college, and that wasn't his job. He didn't have to do that, but he did do that. And that was just like the cherry on top. And it's and one thing I like is, when you're serving God and when you're on that path, even if you don't see, even if God's not letting you see a little far ahead that you want to, it's for the exact reason that you need it for the future. And so no matter what, if you yoke up with God and you're on his path, then nothing bad can happen. If something unfortunate happens, God let it happen, and he only allows things that would benefit other people or you in the future. So you can't lose. And so I'm so glad and I'm happy, and I wanna go all out. I wanna live for God, because what he did for me, and of course we'll never know the extent to what God did for us until we see him. But he really did so much, and for the amount of times that I wrestled with God and just really battling. He has shown me a lot of grace, is what I'm saying. And I know no one's born a saint, but also I don't feel like I'm kind of worthy of even what he's done in my life, So, but I just want to thank also this church, because I really do feel like we're a family. And I want to say, after I got saved, I went back to the old Catholic church that I said that I went to as a kid, but it really felt off. They're saying some things in Latin I didn't understand. They're having they're having gestures that they had memorized. I just didn't feel like I was a part, and that it didn't really match. It didn't really connect. But as Pastor said, my brother came into my life, and he was saved 2 months before I got saved. And so when he came into my life, he led me to this church, and then he just went to Kentucky for God's will for his life. So no doubt, I certainly believe that God led me to this church. I'm very happy, and I want to help, because this work is going to last forever, and we're going to reap what we do. Yeah. So that's it. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
It's exciting to me. I'm going to tell you something about him that he wouldn't say, and I'm glad that he wouldn't say this. But that conversation about tithing, it came up. It wasn't a planned conversation, but it came up, and I just used the word tithing. He said, "What's that?" And I said, "You don't know what tithing is?" He said, "I've never heard of it." And I said, "Okay." And I talked to him, just briefly, 10 minutes. And at the end of 10 minutes, he said, "Okay." And I said, "Well, what do you mean, okay?" He goes, "Okay, I'll start tithing." This young man is obedience-driven to the Lord. I've seen it. I've been around a lot of people. At a college, when you work, you see thousands in 30 years, thousands and tens of thousands of people you meet, you watch, you see, you work with a lot of them. And I don't know that I've ever seen anybody that had more of a desire to please the Lord and to submit to whatever the truth is in the Scripture. And God gives him some special, I believe, some special experiences because of that. You didn't tell him, but he is enrolled now, or maybe you did and I didn't hear it. He's enrolled now in classes at West Coast Baptist College, which is where I recommended. He's taking online classes at West Coast Baptist College, which is where I went to that conference a year and a half ago. And so he's on his way. You remember here several weeks ago, he surrendered his life to full-time service here, and now he's in college in pursuit of that. And I'm just really proud. And I pray, my prayer while he spoke was that that all of us in here would have this same kind of fresh zeal that he has. And if your zeal for the Lord has dimmed a little over the years, over the decades even, my hope and prayer for you was that it would fan a spark in your own heart, regardless of how old you are, how young you are, what you've done, what you haven't done, the regrets you have, the things you're proud of, that tonight that you could look at him and say, okay. I'll be honest with you. I'm challenged by his spirit of obedience to the Lord. I'm challenged by that. And so anyway, very proud of him. I want you to pray for him. And as he has begun the next step that he feels needs to take there with college. And so I thought you would enjoy hearing that. This is a tribute to the grace of God. Amen? Grace of God. He was headed down a bad road, a dark road. And I don't mean in the beginnings. He was in it. He was down the road. He was experiencing to some point, to some extent, fame and the accolades of man. And through a process, God saved him out of that. And so anyhow, all right, you pray for him, get to know him, and you'll be a better person for it, I'm sure. All right, we're going to have a word of prayer, and then we'll be dismissed tonight. Father, thank you for loving us. Thank you for being willing to reach down into the very depths of sin sometimes to pull mankind out, to have a plan and a design for us. And I thank you for how, as Caleb has explained to us tonight, how you reached down into his life, saved him, and pulled him up out of the miry clay and set his feet upon a solid rock. And we're thankful for that. And as Caleb said, Father, we're a family. And he is one of ours. And we are his. And so may we encourage him along this way. And not only that, may we be reminded to encourage one another, praying for one another, and thinking of one another. Help us not to. You never heard him say tonight, Father, anything about thinking about, woe is me, or no, it was always about you and what you're doing and what you're desiring to do and how he's trying to fulfill your will in his life. And I pray that we would all take something away from there tonight. We love you. We want to serve you. We want you to be proud of us. We want to hear, well done, when we get to heaven one day. Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Holy Spirit, empower us to that end. Give us the desires. Give us the strength, the power, the wisdom, that holy unction of God that gives us the wherewithal to do the will of God. Thank you for these that have come out tonight. Bless them now. Bless us all, our church family, now as we go our separate ways. Father, give us a great week this week. Help us in all that we do to glorify and honor you. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.